Hello, and welcome. My name is Victoria Okocha. Welcome to the Unwritten Dear Future Self podcast. And today I have an amazing, fabulous woman who is also a very dear friend here today, who is going to share some amazing insights into her life journey and where she is today and how she is living her best life in all her glory. So the Dear Future podcast is all about helping you to heal, to grow, and to rewrite that story. Because one of the things that I always say is that whatever you are doing today, however you are thinking, is setting you up for the future. So I want to introduce you to my amazing guest. Her name is Sherry Ann Dixon. She is a dynamic transformational coach, motivational speaker, and award-winning journalist. Committed to empowering women to unlock their fullest potential, Sherry Ann Dixon was born in Guyana and now a global force. Sherry's journey has been one of resilience and inspiration, from overcoming personal adversities to becoming a sought-after speaker. She is passionate about guiding individuals through transformation, helping them to reclaim their power and lead lives of purpose and fulfillment. With a background of storytelling, Sherry blends her journalism expertise with her love for coaching, creating engaging platforms where women can connect, thrive, and uplift each other. Her engaging talks and workshops and coaching programs are designed to spark action and foster a culture of sisterhood and support, which she absolutely has done. This is where I found her. But so let's not, let me stop all of this talking. There's a lot more to her, but I think let's get into it and dive into all about Sherry Ann Dixon. So Sherry, tell us, how, or can you take us back to a time in your life which was a defining moment for you that has shaped the woman that you are today?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Anyway, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me on your podcast. I like doing them. I like to talk, so I'm going to have to calm it down a little bit, because when you and I get on the phone, we talk a lot. But how did that defining moment?
Mm.
I was there a defining moment. I think that when I was working in PR. Okay, when I was working in PR, I started off working in PR. Well, I worked in lots of areas, but PR was the predominant one that I liked. And I remembered working there and enjoying it, but it was financial PR. And I don't know, they always got me financial stuff. But one day this girl came in and she knew that I did makeup, because I used to make them up in the staff room, if you want to call it that. All young white girls on a Friday afternoon, and I was the one doing the makeup for them. And I remembered my boss telling me that he was resigning, and he was, maybe he was in his 60 somethings. I don't know, which to me at that time seemed quite old. And then he said, well, what do you want to do with your life? And I was thinking, what do you mean? I need a job. But obviously, I was brought in as the assistant to the chairman of partners, and there wasn't another role for me. So particularly I was going to probably be made redundant. And he kept on asking me all the time, what do you want to do? And I was like, is this man got dementia? And and then I don't know. I just said it to him. Oh, I just want to go into beauty. I want to go into beauty. And he says, I was waiting for you to say that. And every Friday, that was my role, the makeup artist in the staff
Mm,
room. And when I was leaving, they gave me a gift, and that gift was it was a check written to one of the best beauty schools there was in central London, and I they paid for me to go
wow.
and do full-on beauty course, and that was the defining moment for.
Mm,
Really sounds strange because I'm doing transformational coaching now, but basically that took me into the world of beauty and things about Black women that I didn't know about. So that
mm.
was one of the defining moments in my life.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. So what empowered you to want to start motivating and working with women? Because I know, you've got this huge platform, you're a public figure, you've got this huge platform, Women on the Crossroads. So what empowered you and inspired you to want to start working with women?
With women,
Yeah.
well, that same, it's really funny. I'm glad you asked me that because in continuing from working in PR, while I was working in PR, I realized that particularly Black women didn't seem to have a voice. They didn't
Mm,
say anything, they never knew anything. We were taught at that time, anyway, to be kind of quiet or not really say, not having an opinion.
yeah.
Um, Things have changed now, thank God. But working in PR, you had to go and ask questions. What do you think about this? If they're launching something, what do you think? Blah, blah, blah. And our people just always never knew. And I just thought one day, I'm sick and tired of this. I'm sick and tired of women not having a say, especially our women. And that was the reason that I moved towards women, trying to
Mm,
get them to be a little bit more outspoken, ask questions. And one of the things that I remembered saying is, why is there a bank, Barclays Bank, which all our parents banked with, as you know,
hmm.
Barclays, and I think it was Abbey National, but
Yeah.
yet you never see a Black girl in an ad. You never see an ad with a Black girl using toothpaste.
Mm.
I mean, you could see it in Elle and all the other magazines, but there was never one for us. I mean, cocoa butter, Palmer's cocoa butter, and I am saying
Yeah.
that they didn't want to advertise in Black magazines at that time because we basically read all the other magazines, so they didn't have to target us particularly. Cocoa butter, cocoa
Yeah,
butter.
yeah.
So so
Yes.
I basically just, I don't know, I must have been a feisty person anyway, but I decided that I was going to write about these things. And after being in the beauty industry, when I was in the beauty industry, I was making up lots of celebrities and I was always asking them, so
Mm,
how did you do this? Why did you do that?
mm.
I was making up Luther Vandross and I was asking him questions. Barry White, I asked him, so you talk about we as women or people make love to the Barry White tunes. What
Yes.
do you do to help you? Who
Do
do you listen to?
yeah.
Um, I'm sure he said it's on the tape. Food. I was like, oh Barry, I was expecting you to do so. Anyway, but I started
Yeah.
interviewing lots of celebrities, and rather than the same boring stuff about what the music is about, the new song that they're
Mm,
bringing out, which is obviously why they're doing the interview. I made sure I said, well, what's on your podcast? What are you reading? Do you like? Every time I see you got different glasses on, are you into specs? So
yeah.
you had a bit more meat on the ground, and that's
Yeah.
what took me in that world of basically asking questions and
Yeah.
being the voice of um, a lot of people, a lot
Yeah.
of women especially.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I like what you said about asking questions because you know, as Black women, whether we're from the Caribbean, whether we're from the Africa, that upbringing where sometimes some of our parents would have said, a child is supposed to be seen and not heard. So when I think about, you know, especially for Black women who don't use their voice. Sometimes I wonder where that narrative, where that came from. So, I think about maybe they had some form of messaging growing up as a young child. And so, growing up as a teenager into adulthood, it just becomes normal for them to not speak up, right? When they need to. So what was
Yeah.
what how I know you used the word, well, I was a feisty one. I wouldn't say that. I think I wouldn't say that.
Well, I was,
I would say maybe you were just a vocal child, and maybe you had that opportunity to, in your household growing up where you could voice your opinion and you were listened to. And so you carried that into your adulthood, whereby maybe some women didn't, some people didn't.
it's about being inquisitive, but
Mm,
knowing when to speak and when not to speak. It's not this generation of women, of
mhm.
yeah, of people,
Yeah.
because now they speak even before you ask them the question. Uh, but then, I
Yeah.
mean, but I remember something that my grandmother said. I grew up with my grandmother in Guyana. I was brought up in Guyana, and my mum just had lots of children, six of us. And basically, I went to live with my grandmother because that's what they did in the family, take on board
Yes.
the child. They help. It's a
Yes.
family, isn't
Yes.
it? It's a congregation that is
Yes.
helping that child. And I remembered my grandmother saying to this lady, that one there, she's special. Um,
Mm.
and I think it's because I was always observing and
Mm.
listening and reading. I was always
Yeah.
reading. And then I would ask questions. Like, I remember saying to my grandfather, I wanted, or it was my dad, I want to go on that radio show. And he said, what are you going to go on there and say? I have a lot to say. I want to go on there. And they actually took me on there. And I was
Wow.
speaking about, they were asking me questions like,
Mm.
you're living in England now, what do you think, you'll come back and marry a Guyanese man? I'm just like, no. I said no, and I did it completely the opposite. Completely the opposite. I did marry a
Yeah.
Guyanese man, but I think I knew what I wanted to say. I was
Yeah.
vocal. And
Yes.
I don't think that I was one of those people that said no. No wasn't in my dictionary. Can't
Mm.
is also not in my dictionary. So you take off that T and can. So I've everything that I've achieved when they say you can't. I'll give you a quick example. I
Mm.
became beauty editor of Pride magazine after many months of writing for different magazines and The Voice and blah blah blah. And somebody said, "Well, why is she not writing for Pride?" I think the publisher said, "Well then." Well, I don't know, but we should get her in. And I went in and I eventually ended up writing the beauty sections. And on my first day, was the cover, Lennox Lewis was the cover of being done for Pride. And I was having to make them up. People don't realize that
Yeah.
you have to put on, and if they've got tattoos, you've got to darken the tattoos. And while I was doing that, I was asking a lot of questions because the person that was sent to interview him was a man, and it was all going to be about boxing. And
Mm.
I was talking about, well, what do you eat? Finding out a little bit that he was a vegetarian, he
Yes.
was pescatarian. We didn't call it that then. Just
Yes.
said we don't eat beef. And I found out those things. And I think that working for Pride opened my eyes to
Mm.
that people, the advertisers won't advertise in the magazine. And then I was like, what do you mean they don't want to advertise in the magazine? So Chanel was a great example. And I remember phoning them up and saying, why won't you send this product that you were meant to send? And they said, oh, well, could you send us a copy of the magazine? And I said, no, I'm not sending it. You go out and buy it. We've been in business for whatever, whatever years it was at the time. And you're telling me I have to prove to you that the magazine is worthy. You say, I gave them the facts about us being ABC. I've got a credit card, so I can go in a shop and buy any Chanel lipstick I want. Yeah, you don't do my foundation, but I can buy the lipstick and the eyeshadow and the bronzers and stuff. And you're telling me, I was really into myself. And the next, she said, are you saying that Chanel is, you try to say Chanel is racist or prejudiced? I said, well, at this moment, unless I get what I'm asking you for, I'm leaving a square in the magazine and said this was given to Chanel to promote whatever the product was, which I was using, and they won't send it. Do you know what? Half an hour later, the bike arrived with all those things.
Can you imagine?
It's about having the guts to stand up.
Yes,
it's about having
yes.
without being rude or
yes.
arrogant, to stating facts, and
yes.
that's what I'm.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I absolutely believe that's all about emotional intelligence, right? Because it's about knowing, having that awareness, knowing when to say something, and having, having the right approach as well, making sure that your message is constructive, but you still get your point across. Because, one of the things I've got 2 children, as you know, and one of the things I always tell my children is to always say what you need to say. Always say what you need to say, but it's how you say it that makes the difference. And I think, it's so important for women, and especially Black women. I know you talked about, women are, we're talking a lot now and so forth, but there's still a lot of women. There's still a lot of marginalized women from different parts of Africa, different parts of the Caribbean, who potentially still don't use their voice, still don't talk up. And so for all the women that potentially that are listening right now, what message would you say to those women that maybe still feel stuck in their voice and not, don't feel that they can really be their true selves and speak up?
Well, one of the things I always quote is that my grandmother always brought me up to be respectful, to sit right, to know how to engage. And people, and I'm speaking particularly to the younger people, younger women, bring up your daughters, especially, to know how to drink and eat and sit properly at a table.
Yes.
Because quite often when you're out and you can see, like, I give you an example. I saw one girl, we had a dinner thing, and she was making up fuss. She didn't want to come. What's the point? Anyway, she came. She came to this thing. And, it's one of those dinner tables that have the 3 glasses, the 3 knives and forks. So,
the silver service type thing.
Right. But she made, all the others were graduates. They were all graduates, including her. And she was one of the highest graduates. In fact, I think she's a valedictorian at that time. And she was making such a fuss. Anyway, I waited for her to go to the toilet, and I caught her on the way back. And I said, what? I knew she was going to go, what is the exactly is your problem? Well, I don't see why we need all those glasses and all those forks and whatever. And I said, I get you. I understand you.
Yeah.
It's the tone that I was speaking to her in. But if you're not sure what to do, then always go last. Don't pick up the glass that you're not sure about. Find people that you can just watch and then do it. I said, don't make the fuss that you're making is showing people that you're not, it's like you're not accustomed. And why should she be accustomed? She's at home with maybe sitting on a chair eating and not at a table. And it's a bit unfair to,
Yeah.
although she's bright academically, she wasn't taught in her home. And then I said, all right, well, I want you to sit next to me, And I asked the girl that was sitting next to me, who was pouting by that time, to move and let her sit. And I, every time I would give her a little tap on her leg because she didn't know, like to say, yeah, okay, go now, say yes to this, say no to this.
Wow.
You have a voice, even if it's not verbally,
Yeah.
but by gesticulating,
Yes. Yeah.
smiling.
Yes.
You've got to know to close your knife and fork when you go out, because the guy wouldn't come and empty the table. They wouldn't start taking away your plate unless you know that you have to close your knife and fork. And those are, okay, that's a very minuscule thing that I wanted to talk about. But what I'm saying, it all belongs in the home, how you treat your children, how you teach your children, you know, they can't be rude, but they can have an opinion. That's my
Yes.
main thing. Have an opinion. Speak up for yourself, but don't speak and not know the facts. Always
Yeah.
speak up.
Good.
I've always.
Good. Yeah. And I absolutely believe that, speaking up for yourself is really, really important. Let your voice be heard, because
Yeah.
if not, then people will decide how they treat you. I always believe that you show people how to treat you by what you allow, and that
Yeah.
can go in many different directions. So,
At
so
work.
Sherry,
Especially at work.
yeah,
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut over you, but
yeah,
okay, I used the example of eating, but at
yes.
work, if you've got a meeting and then you never have an opinion, they naturally don't come to you for
Mm,
an opinion. So
yeah.
if you find that they've left you out 2 or 3 times, the next one you can say, "Can I make a point this time? Because the last time you guys didn't ask my opinion."
Yeah,
You're not
yeah,
arguing with them, but you said it clearly.
yeah, definitely, definitely. And
In
it's
the
all,
minutes. It's in the
yeah,
minutes.
yeah, no, definitely, because it's definitely all about using your voice, definitely. And I'm definitely an advocate for that. So, Sherry, tell me, how do you stay grounded when life feels heavy and uncertain to you?
Ooh, that's a big one, and that in every section of your life,
Yeah,
you'll find that there is a time in which you think, I can't do this anymore. I'm at the end of my stead. And I remembered it came when I was working as a magazine editor. Really, I just needed a break, but I thought I needed to leave that job. And I left, and then I went to St. Lucia, and I became editor-in-chief of Chic Caribbean in St. Lucia. They headhunted me, and I went there. And again, when I was there, I decided I was lonely, because you move to another country and you don't know anything. You don't know people's attitudes and behavior. You know what they're
yeah.
like.
Systems, yes.
And in England, I would say, would you mind finishing that by 4 o'clock? And they know you mean I want it by 4 o'clock. But I found that when I said that, it's in the Caribbean, it was like I'm giving them a choice. Would you mind? I'm giving them a choice.
Yeah.
And so then I had to learn to phrase change my attitude. I
Mm,
don't like massa mentality, as I call it. I don't believe it's shouting at people. I think you
yeah.
can get yourself over, without having to shout at people.
Mm.
So there were many times that I felt like, oh, this world's coming to an end. I can't cope anymore. I wanted to run away. It
Yeah.
happens when you have children. The children are growing up. They're teenagers. They're giving you hell. You're probably going through perimenopause, which you guys talk about now, but we didn't in my time. I mean, mothers, as we said before, or family, they kept things hidden. They didn't tell you about
Yes.
fibroids. They
Yeah.
didn't tell you about these things. Everybody's
Mm.
trying to say they don't get those things.
Yeah.
And so we got kind of ignorant with regard to our
Yeah.
bodies and how and our emotion as well, because we're
Mm.
brought up to please your husband or man, to clean the house, to cook, but you still got this big job that you've got at work. And
Yeah.
those were times that were hard to navigate. They were times hard to navigate.
Yeah.
And I would have known I was going through perimenopause at that time. They were
Yeah.
very hard. So I made
Mm.
decisions to leave that job, go and work in the Caribbean. And really all I needed was a month off or rest or to go to a spa.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what you would do now. So in
Yeah.
navigating it, I always change the dynamics. I want to
Mm.
go into beauty. I just went into beauty. But beauty, in a way, brought me into the world that I'm now in.
Mm.
Beauty allowed me to find out about stuff. It's a different world. It's a
Yeah.
more gregarious. You
Yeah.
can do anything that you want to do, kind of thing. And I'm working with all the top celebrities, so
Mm.
I learned from them.
Mm. Mm.
Um, it's not easy. It's about taking time out. What I'm trying to say is take time out for you.
Yeah.
Take a moment to breathe. Take a
Yeah.
moment to write down all the good things, because we tend to not say the good things about ourselves or what we've achieved. It's like next, next,
Yeah.
next. I say write down all the things that you've achieved, all the things that you're good at,
Yeah.
including parenting. I was
Yeah.
good yesterday. Today I didn't have, my nose was bad and I
Yeah.
threw a chicken at something, but I did. Um, but but then the next day I'm better. So
Yeah.
understand your ebbs and flows,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then that helps you to pat yourself on the back, because we don't do that enough.
Enough. 100%. I
Yeah.
totally agree. I totally agree. I like what you said when when you said that we don't pay attention to our wins. We don't celebrate ourselves enough because I think as well, sometimes life can be so challenging for people, and we just go, 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 especially for women. We just go, we've got husbands, we've got partners, we've got children, we've got jobs, and we're just going, going, going. And we're not even realizing or taking notice of those small little things that we've done that we can, like you said, give yourself a pat on the back, cheer for yourself, congratulate yourself, and these things make a difference. It really does make a difference because it tells you, I believe, it tells you that you're okay. You're doing okay. Keep going.
I
Keep
can do.
going.
And Victoria, have you ever noticed that if you ask somebody, well, I've noticed this with all my mentees,
Yeah.
so tell me about yourself, and they'll always tell you the list of things that they can't do. I can't bake cake. I'm not good at ironing. I like cooking. I like cooking. That's supposed to be an accolade. I like
Yes.
cooking. But the can'ts is a list that
Just
goes on
longer.
and on,
Yeah. Same
right?
with me. Yeah.
But
It's,
and if you check yourself, you should be able to say your cans.
yeah.
I am very good at public speaking.
Yeah.
I'm very good at writing. I am good at speaking in front of thousands of people. And then if you ask me, what is your little hiccups? I call them hiccups. I don't like cooking. I can cook for
Yeah.
myself, for my
Yeah.
family, but I'm not making those big cakes and
Yeah.
big meals that say my other friend can. And is that why should I be oh, and I can't um, drive a car, because I used to get headaches when I was younger, when I was learning, and I just stopped.
Yeah.
But I can't for now, because I'm sure if I go and do a test now, I would pass it because I challenge myself to be
Mm,
better every day. I
yes.
challenge, and that could be one of the reasons why I'm living where I'm living at the moment. I live in the Caribbean,
Yeah.
and that was a choice to make. I think one day you and I were talking about
Mm.
this. Like, how do you get up and just go? You just don't get up and
Yeah.
go. You know that something's not right where you are. And
Yes.
you say, even if it's for 2 years, even if it's 3 years,
Yes.
I'd like to go and experience living somewhere that's hot, to be in the heat for Christmas. You know, if
Yeah.
Santa Claus can't come down the chimney, there's no chimneys here. You know, it's hot all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do I, how does that feel like? You could
Yeah.
do it even for 3 months, or do it for
Exactly.
6 months
Yeah.
or a
Yeah.
year,
Yeah.
and then
No,
go back. But do something to make it,
exactly.
do something to make a difference
Yeah, definitely.
to your life, because you still have to, all right, if you've got little children, you might have to think not just for one person, but for three people.
Mm.
But make a decision to live your life effectively, is what I say.
Yes, yeah, I totally agree, my dear, 100%. Last question before we wrap up. What do you hope your future self will thank you for 5 years from now, Sherry? What do you think your future self is going to thank you for 5 years from now?
My future self will thank me for being a woman who has empowered many people along my way. I have stood for them,
Mm,
especially women, but I stand for particularly people of color.
yeah.
And my future self will say, "You did a good job because somebody listened." That's what I
I
think.
I totally agree, and I absolutely believe that you've done an amazing job. I mean, you've empowered me, you've inspired me. I'm part of your Women on the Crossroads network on Facebook. So, Sherry, before we close out today, where can people reach you? Where can they get hold of you? What's your social media handles? How can people connect with you?
I'm going to send them to one place, which is my website. If you're in business, you need a website.
Yeah.
You need somewhere that people can come one time and get you.
Yes.
And so my website is, of course, my name. My name is my brand,
Yes.
sherryandixon.com. All the W's,
Okay.
sherryandixon.com. And when you go on there, you can see all the different little clicks for Facebook, Instagram, God knows what's on there.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. So we are at the end of today's podcast, Unwritten Dear Future Self. We've had the amazing Sherry Ann Dixon, who has shared some insights, not only into her life, but how us as women, women of color, we can use our voice to speak out. She's shared so many tips, so many tools today that I hope that you're going to find useful. So, if you have found today's podcast useful, please like, share, and subscribe. I am your host, Victoria Okocha, saying bye bye, and Miss Sherry Ann Dixon is saying bye
Bye.
bye. Thank you.